It was in his final year at Child Wall School in Liverpool that Tony Bellew sowed the seeds of a life that reaches another money spinning crescendo on Saturday night. Having spent most of his adolescence pursuing a pipe dream of playing for his beloved Everton, the teenager intervened in a scrap and inadvertently set himself on the road to a ring career that David Haye hopes to bring to a brutal end. Only I could get permanently excluded from school for defending a teacher, Bellew recalls to Sportsmail. The pupil hit the teacher and I hit the pupil so hard he lost most of his teeth. They asked me back for sixth form. The school agreed with me for what I'd done, but they had to permanently exclude me because of the damage I'd done to the boy's jaw and mouth. I declined, which I regret doing. I should have gone back to school and done an extra year and done P. But I didn't. I chose to be stubborn and hard-nosed and go to the boxing gym and tell everyone I was going to be world champion. Everyone laughed. But what can I say? No one is laughing anymore. 2 decades later, Bellew is on the crest of a wave. In 2016, he won the WBC Cruiserweight crown and then added his most high-profile scalp last March. Few outside his inner circle gave him a prayer when he stepped up to heavyweight to face Haye at the O2 Arena, but when his rival's body betrayed him, Bellew capitalized. On Saturday night, the two collide again, with Bomber tipped by many to upset the odds once more. And despite being more than 200 miles from Rotunda ABC where he learned his trade, the 35-year-old will be making his way to the ring in all too familiar circumstances. I was supposed to be nothing. I have friends who are dead, who are in jail doing life. We had no way out, he remembers. I'm very fond of saying that in Liverpool you're good at one of two things. You're either good at having a fight or you're good at telling jokes. I can joke but I can definitely have a fight. Success may have come late in Bellew's professional career, but it did not come out of nowhere. He was a 3-time ABA champion who won 40 of his 47 amateur contests, including 32 by stoppage. During these hardening days he went around the world, representing his country alongside the likes of Amir Khan and David Price. Good times, he smiles. I still have very close friends in James DeGale, the Olympic gold medalist. I'm friends with Tony Jeffries still, an Olympic bronze medalist, and David Price is one of my closest friends. As in any walk of life, boys will be boys. There has been many a time when lads have fallen asleep on planes and we've tied their shoelaces together and they've got up and gone flying in front of everyone. There have been other times where we've been in really high-end places and someone's pulled another man's tracksuit bottoms down and then pushed them over on the floor. Things like that you look back at and you laughed out. I think now and cringe at the thought of someone doing that to me, but it's just young boys being young boys, and that's what we were, young boys traveling the world, all with the dream of becoming world champion. Some of us have got there, some of us haven't. But ultimately we all still have those memories. Unlike Khan, DeGale and co., whose Olympic pedigree provided an obvious stepping stone into the paid ranks, Bellew made his professional debut aged 24, and only out of necessity. I was on an elite scholarship, becoming a trainee accountant and earning a reasonable wage, and then my missus got pregnant and the money wasn't cutting it. I had a mortgage to pay at the time in my first house in Old Swan, in Liverpool, he recalls. I thought I'd give the pros a go, try and pay for my house, try and stabilize the kids' lives a little bit and see where it leads. I didn't expect to make fortunes. I didn't expect to make world champion. His misgivings were misplaced. Since his debut in 2007, the Liverpool fighter has won British, Commonwealth, European and world titles. But not without the odd bump in the road. In 2011, his first world title challenge ended in defeat by bitter rival Nathan Cleverly. 2 years later, he was stopped by Adonis Stevenson in Quebec. That remains the only time the 35-year-old has fought away from these shores in the paid ranks. But as during his amateur days, Bellew honed his skills across the world and experienced the harshest realities of his brutal sport. I went to the ghetto in Brooklyn once. I was supposed to be sparring a man who was about 5 feet 7 inches, a big puncher named Curtis Stevens, and we got to the place where we were supposed to be sparring and there were a few unsavory characters around with lumps in their jackets that didn't appear normal, he remembers. I'll arrive 2 hours before and set my stuff up. I've got really bad OCD tendencies. It's really bad. I have to get to the place at exactly the time I want to be there and I sort things out specifically. My speaker goes in one place, I like my water in another place, I like my kit hanging up, looking perfect, ironed and precise, color coordinated, I like things to match, and then I go about stretching, get my hands taped and wrapped. I'm very calm. I like to joke and laugh in the dressing room until the groin protector goes on. I'm very calm and you'd be surprised how much I laugh and joke. I put videos on the male matrix and things that make me laugh about men learning how to deal with crazy women. I just watch the most insane crazy things and we just die laughing in the dressing room until it's that moment where, about 40 minutes to an hour to go, Then it's time to switch on and the horrible part in me comes out instead. Turned up a 6 feet 2 inches southpaw who looked like a more muscular Usain Bolt. He was massive and the absolute opposite of what I'd turned up to spar. He was like, "I'll deal with you boy," and I remember this guy getting in the ring and for 2 rounds he bashed the life out of me. He adds, at New York's Gleason's gym with a kid called Joe Smith, the guy who knocked out Bernard Hopkins in his last fight. I remember sparring him and flattening him. I hit him with a left hook and he went flat out on the floor and banged his head on the floor. His manager just leaned through the ropes and instead of worrying about his man or helping him get up, he just said to him, "Get the F up." I couldn't believe it. For all of Bellew's traveled career and worldwide recognition, however, all roads still lead back to Liverpool, and one night in particular, when he stopped Ilunga Makabu to win the world title in May 2016. It doesn't matter what I do in my career from now on, that night was my night. That moment was my moment. If I go in and knock David Haye out in 20 seconds, it won't even touch Goodison Park, Bellew insists. Being in that first team dressing room and the Gladys Street singing so loud that the changing room rocked. They were singing my name and I actually turned my music off. He adds, "I've fulfilled my goals. I wish I could have retired after Goodison Park, but it's like asking a kid who's playing Grand Theft Auto, when you've completed the game and done all the missions, why do you keep playing? You play it to get the extras. You play to get the bonus cars, the great weapons or the bigger house or the nicer suit." That's the story of my life. I'm finishing off the last few little bonuses on the game. If Haye has his wish, it will be game over for Bellew by midnight on Saturday night. And when the time comes for the bomber to call it a day, he will do so with conflicted emotions. First and foremost, I'm going to become a proper father because at the end of the day, boxing has taken over my life for 20 years, he claims. My kids have had to go through an awful lot. I sent them on holiday before the first David Haye fight. I phoned them as soon as I won. My eldest son, Corey, who is 11 and in his first year of senior school. His words were not, "I'm made up" or "I'm happy." His first words were, "I can't wait to tell them in school." I told them he'd do it because he'd been listening to kids in school. Older kids can be nasty and vicious in school, and for them to be saying, "Your dad's getting knocked out, your dad's getting hurt," broke my heart. Boxing has allowed Bellew to take himself and his loved ones away from the streets of Toxteth and Wavertree where he was born and raised, respectively. But on Saturday night, as the minutes tick down to the first bell, those roots will be as close to him as ever. The little square area where I'm from in Wavertree has produced myself, Terry Edom, a cage fighter, John Welsh and Ross Barkley was a few years later. All within the space of about 400 meters. All 4 of us have been born, and that shows you. 2 footballers, 2 fighters, and I don't know anyone else that's done anything from the area. That's not putting my area down because it made me who I am, and when we get in the dressing room and in those 40 minutes, before fighting, I can be horrible, a vicious, nasty, horrible person you would not cross, and that's because of where I'm from, he adds. If I have to get off the floor 10 times, I'll get off the floor 10 times. If he breaks my nose, my jaw, whatever happens, I'll fight and fight to the finish. That's basically down to where I'm from, and that's why I'm very proud of being from Liverpool. Tony Bellew is an ambassador for SportPesa. Check out SportPesa's offers for Haye v Bellew at sportpesa.uk.